All
I'll
right.
try not to put anyone to sleep here.
So thank you guys for joining our team Zoom. Tonight, Cindy is going to be hosting it, and she's going to talk about taxes because tax season is coming up. It's the beginning of the new year. So whether you guys prepared for it last year or not, or at the beginning of a new year, or you're a brand new coach, you're going to learn everything there is to know about taxes, what's a tax write-off, things like that. So what Cindy's going to do is she's going to go ahead and share her talk and everything about it. And then if you guys have any questions during what she's talking about, go ahead and write it in the chat box. And then after she's done talking, I'm going to basically interview her with the questions that you guys give. And then she can answer them at the end like a live Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. If you guys are not, I think everyone's muted. Oh, if you're not, oh, thanks, Corinne. If you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself. And then I'm going to take it away, or let Cindy take it away.
Okay. Hey, guys. So, yep, like she said, my name's Cindy. If you don't know who I am, and you're probably like, who's this crazy tattooed girl who thinks she knows about taxes, right? Actually, that is my day job. I've been a tax accountant for 17 years. Yes, I am old. So for those of you that are trying to do the math now to try to figure out when I turned an adult, I am old. And I'm actually transitioning out of being an accountant and into Beachbody coaching full time. Right. But yes, I still know a lot about taxes and how they affect our businesses. I primarily work with small business owners and yeah, so there you go. And individuals and stuff like that too. So basically, I'm going to try not to bore you. I'm going to try to put it in kind of like layman's terms, right? And kind of put it into perspective of just your company. I'm not going to be able to tell you everything about taxes because tax code changes daily. So that's kind of crazy to be able to have to do that. But basically, let's start with your businesses. Okay. So when you become a Beachbody coach, if you don't know this, you are not an employee of Beachbody. You are self-employed. You are a business owner. Okay. So you're what's called an independent contractor and versus an employee, right? So at the end of the year, when you're an employee at like a regular employer, you'll get what's called a W-2. And this is, of course, for US. I know Corinne's on here. I don't know hardly anything about tax code in Canada. So I'm sorry if you are in Canada. This is for US people, right? So basically you get what's called a W-2, and that's going to have your earnings for the year. And when you work for someone else, they take out your federal withholding, which is what you pay to the IRS, right? They take out a portion of your Social Security, which is what goes into your Social Security account for when you get older. And then they also pay for half of your Medicare, which goes into your Medicare account if you ever need it when you're older, right? So basically, and then you match that, right? They take out 100% of your withholding for your federal taxes, which is called your income tax. And then you match your Social Security and Medicare. Okay. So when you're self-employed, and that's what you see on your W-2. Okay. When you're self-employed, you're responsible for 100% of that. So you will get what is actually called a 1099 at the end of the year. And for those of you, if you'll get that if you've made over $600 in the year. Okay. And this is a question I get a lot is, if I don't get a 1099, do I have to claim the income that I made? The law is that you are supposed to report every dollar that you earn for earned income for the year on your tax return. Whether or not you do that is up to you. Whether or not everyone in the world does that if they make less than $600, it's probably about 75% don't, 25% do. It's entirely up to you, but that's the law. So I want to tell you what that is because I get that question like probably more than anyone else, any other question. Okay, so what you're going to get is a 1099, and what you end up paying as a self-employed contractor is you end up paying self-employment tax, which is your basically your Social Security and your Medicare, but it's 100%. So the total amount of that is 15.3%. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind because when you make over $400 net income, so this is after your expenses, which I'm going to go over. Yeah, I'm going to go over at the end, right? And at your net income, you start paying that self-employment tax no matter what, right? And so that's something that you need to always keep in mind, because you need to be saving a portion of your income to pay for that once you get to a certain income level. And I'll go over that in just a second. So basically, oh my gosh, I totally went out of order here. I should have looked at my notes. I had notes, Vicki, I had notes. I could seriously talk about this all day, but I know all of you would start falling asleep if I start doing that. I'm going to backtrack for just a second, okay? I'm sorry about that. Okay, a couple of questions I do get a lot are, do I need a separate bank account as a business owner? Do I need a business bank account? And my advice to every single one of you is yes. It does not need to be a business account unless you want it to be. You can open up a sole proprietor account. It's called a DBA account, so it can be like Vicki Roberts, DBA, doing business as Fit with Vicki. Right? That can be what's on her bank account. Okay. Or, we have Adkinson, we have an LLC, my husband and I do. So we have Adkinson Coaching and Consulting is our LLC, which is totally different, but you don't have to have an LLC or a corporation. But the reason why you need to have a separate bank account is because you're a business, and you wouldn't see a franchise owner of McDonald's or someone that owns a Subway or something like that have all of the revenue that the money that comes into that company go into their personal account. That would be totally shady, right? Do you all agree that that would be pretty shady, right? It's the same. The IRS sees it as the same with small business owners, no matter how big you are. And if you're ever audited by the IRS and they come and they, go through all your accounts, they're more likely to disallow, which means like not allow you to deduct certain expenses if they're through your personal account versus a separate business bank account. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. If I lose anyone, start like waving your hands or something like that and like type in the chat box, okay? Another question that I get a lot too is on business licenses too for Beachbody businesses. I recommend that everyone get a business license. It's like $10 or $15. It legitimizes your business. People are able to look you up as a business. In some states, you're required to pay business taxes on the gross income. So that's your income before any of your expenses come out. State of Washington, where we live, is one of them. And you can look online at any of your states, and you can look under the Department of Revenue. That's where you would look to go get a business license. And that's across the board, no matter what state it is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the taxes. I'm going to go back to the withholding. Okay, sorry, I had to sidetrack that part there. Okay, so like I said, you're going to be paying self-employment taxes. So no one is withholding taxes out of your income from Beachbody. I need you guys to understand that, because a lot of times people will get their 1099 at the end of the year, and they're like, all of a sudden they put it in their tax return, and all of a sudden they owe money, right? And they're like, why do I owe this money? No one has withheld it for you. And what happens is when you work for an employer, they withhold those taxes and then they deposit them, they send them to the IRS on your behalf. So that's something that as you get, as you start getting a little bit bigger, like I would say probably around the $150 per week range, you need to start making estimated tax deposits. And I can make like another form or something like that. I was thinking about that, making a document on how to do that. It's very easy. You can do it online. It's super easy to do that. And so, and I actually have recommended withholding amounts that I've given to all my coaches, and I tell all the leaders on our team. So, you're probably like, well, how much money do I set aside if I need to start setting aside money for taxes? If you're making over $150 a week, I always say up to $500 a week, you want to set aside 10% of your gross earnings. So like the amount that Beachbody sends you directly. Don't include any expenses or anything like that. Like right off the top, I have a separate account that I just, every single week when I get paid, I make I calculate the exact amount based off of what bracket I'm in, and I transfer it into a special fund that I only use for my taxes. And I recommend all of you guys do that too. $500 to $1,500 a week, I recommend you put 15%, $2,500 to $3,500. Write these down because you guys are going to be making this much. So don't look at me and go, I don't need to write that down. $2,500 a week, right? $2,500 to $3,500 a week, 20%, $3,500 to $4,500 a week, 30%, and $4,500 and above, 35%. That's usually where it kind of maxes out, because generally once you get to that point, you have employees and assistants and things like that. So you're going to have a lot of deductions and expense off of your income and stuff.
Could you go over those one more time?
Yeah. Here, I'll post them in the group. Okay. So the reason why I started this out before, I know a lot of you are probably like came on here and wanted to know like, oh, what can we deduct, right? What can we deduct on our taxes? The reason why I'm starting with this part is this is huge, right? This is no joke. Like taxes are no joke. Like the IRS is basically the Gestapo. They are worse than any other collection agency you could ever possibly imagine. They're the only agency in the United States that does not require judgments or liens or anything, or, they don't have to go through the court process in order to seize your assets or, shut down your bank account. Like they don't have to do any of that by law in the United States. And so you don't want to have a debt owed to them. And so, they will offer payment plans, but they only offer them once every 5 years. And so you want to make sure that you're seriously on top of this and getting used to it while your income is small, right? Because once you get in the habit of it, then it's just a no-brainer. And it just makes it much more simple. You're already in the process before it gets more complicated as your income grows, okay? So, and that actually is like one of the number one reasons why businesses fail is because of lack of income to pay taxes. They get shut down. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, now that the scary IRS part's over, right? Now you're all like, oh my God, I don't even want to be a business person. Like, it's really not that scary, but it can be if you don't pay your taxes. Okay, the best way to make sure you're prepared for that is to be organized, okay? Look at, I'm not even organized. Do as I say, not as I do. Just one second. Okay, so Vicki knows this, right? Because I get on her about this stuff. Okay, so you need to keep all of your receipts that you use with Beachbody. Okay, so anything that you guys spend money on with Beachbody, you need to save them. Now, I always tell like my Beachbody clients and my smaller like home office-y type clients that one of these things, you guys see what this is? It's like a envelope folder. Like these things are awesome. Vicki, do you have your thing that you use? Vicki uses kind of like a notebook thing, or at least she was using like a notebook with folders in it. And, it's got like pocket folders in it and have like a subject on them. Like have.
I think you still have mine from last year.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, you should have one for this year. Mm-hmm.
I do. It's don't do as I say or as I do. Mine's
I know. Oh, look at, she hasn't even organized them yet. She really just shoves them into a bag and then organizes them later. Yeah. Okay, don't do that. Yeah. At least she keeps her receipts though. That's good. It's way better than, which is, yeah, you have one. Good. So, so I actually use a filing cabinet for all of my stuff. I don't use the pocket folder, but that's another option, whatever files, whatever is easiest for you, just have something that you have where you can actually categorize by expenses, which I'm going to go over, like deductible expenses, okay? Which I'm going to go over kind of common business expenses at the end before we go to questions. But you want it to have them labeled, like not by month, but by expenses. Because then when it goes to do your taxes, it's super easy to grab all the receipts that's for that one category, put them all together. If you're doing your own taxes or if you have a tax preparer doing them, then it just makes it a lot simpler. It's going to be less expensive for you and take less time, okay? So really you want to have something to keep all of those receipts and keep everything. Okay, so you have these receipts. You don't know what to do with them. Okay, I recommend tracking things electronically just because I'm an accountant and you need to see where you're at, right? You need a snapshot of where your business is at. If you make this income coming in, if you don't know what you're putting out and you're expending, you don't know if you're making a profit. And if you're not making a profit, it's not really a business. It's just a hobby that you're losing money at. Bottom line, right? And that's totally okay. It's totally cool to have a hobby that you love, like, and it can be fitness, or crafting or scrapbooking or anything else that you spend money on. Jamborees. God, I could be a jamboree hobbyist, right? Because Lord knows I spend too much money on jamborees. So it just, you have to, you need to have a snapshot if you want to grow your business and see where you're leaking money, see where you can improve your income, things like that. So I always suggest tracking electronically. Now I use QuickBooks, which is a very user-friendly software. It's made by Intuit, which is the same company that makes TurboTax. So if you use QuickBooks and TurboTax, they literally will import seamlessly together. So you can actually import your business stuff right into your tax return. It's really cool. Quicken is also a little bit less expensive. It's also made by the same company, Intuit, and they have a Quicken Home and Business. So you can actually put like your own home budget on it, and you can do your business budget and just have two separate kind of things so you can see them together. There's a new one that's out called Wave, which I've heard of. It's actually free, and I know that it's all online and stuff like that. And I know a couple people that have been using it, and they really like it. I've actually never tried it, so I can't recommend it myself, but something to look into. It's like WAV, just like a, water wave. So those are like for desktop type things that you want. If you don't like the desktop route and you don't want to go like full blown computer software, a couple of really helpful apps that I use and I recommend to all of my clients there's one called Expensify, which is, you can get it in the Google Play or Google Store and the and iTunes. And basically it tracks your expenses and kind of organizes things for you. Mileage Log Plus and it's not plus, it's like plus sign, is probably one of the best apps I've found for logging mileage and keeping it all in track. And that you want definitely anytime you drive to any kind of Beachbody event, anything, meet a client, go to a Super Saturday, drive to the office supply store to go get more paper for your business, like anything like that, you want to track that mileage because you can deduct it at the end of the year. Biz Expense Tracker. Okay, it's BIZ and then Expense Tracker. That one's really good too for like an overall business, kind of get your income and your expenses. So kind of like a mobile, smaller version of QuickBooks. And then this one, I totally think this would be awesome for you, Vicki. It's fairly new. It's called Shoeboxed, which is totally funny because like I literally have some clients that come to me with like giant shoe boxes full of receipts at the end of the year. And so when I found this app, I was like, oh my God, this thing is genius, right? And basically you can actually take a photo of your receipts and it categorizes them, and you can like categorize them into what deduction they are. Like if, like let's say Vicki takes me out to lunch, and we do like a brainstorming session and she buys, right? She's my upline, so they should always be buying. I'm just kidding. I just had to make sure you guys were still awake. Yeah. So, so she buys, so she takes the receipt and she like takes a picture of it and she can put it into meals and entertainment. And then when it comes to tax time, you can actually print out this really cool report, and it has everything categorized for you to like import into your tax return if you do it yourself or to send to a tax preparer. So that's a really cool new thing. So, oh my God, I'm sorry, you guys. So just like, I know like recently we've all been talking about using systems to track our clients and track our prospects. Tracking this stuff is equally as important to your business. And I know it doesn't seem like it. For a lot of you, it's like the garbagey, I hate this part of my business. I get that. Like, believe me, I do. I know. Yeah, I know. It's like, they count towards.
Don't answer now.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Keeping you on track.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. Thank you. I know. See, I shouldn't even be looking at the box, right? Okay. Yeah. So just basically track your stuff, keep your receipts, find a system. I gave you some resources. There's also a million other resources out there. Those are just ones that I'm familiar with that I really like and trust. Like I love Intuit. I love TurboTax. I've been using their like basically accountant's version of software. It's called the CERT, which is like TurboTax on steroids for professionals and stuff like that for many, many years. And so those are kind of like the software companies that I recommend for that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's talk about the stuff I know y'all want to talk about, right? How do I make my income smaller so I don't have to pay any taxes? Okay, so deductions. Now, here's my disclaimer about deductions. So the tax code in the United States is up for interpretation, okay? There are millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of tax codes, and they change daily, literally daily. Basically, when you have a deduction, the IRS has kind of a flexible approach, especially when it comes to small businesses and things like that when it comes to the deductions. Whereas basically the burden is on you, the taxpayer, or your tax preparer, if you're not preparing your own taxes, to justify an expense, okay? So I'm saying this because the number one thing that people get, like if they're having someone do their taxes that someone says that they can't deduct is Shakeology. And because it's a consumable item, and consumable items are generally not deductible. But I know why we have Shakeology. Like Shakeology is so tied into our revenue sources. Like we have to have 90 PVHD in order to, gain Success Club, get bonuses, get free customers. It's really tied into our whole income structure. And so that being, and plus all, not to mention that, but like all of the marketing that we do where, you're like, hey, hello, look at my Shakeology. And we're a very social media driven business versus a lot of other businesses that aren't that way. So that's why Shakeology is deductible. And so if you have someone that is preparing your taxes and they say, wait, what's this Shakeology? You just need to do the job and due diligence in letting them know why it is so integral to your business, that it's not just some consumable that has nothing to do with your business. It really is the cornerstone to your business, okay? That being said, all of your programs are deductible. I'm going to make a sheet too for this stuff. And this is like basic stuff. There's way more than this too, but these are the things that I get the most common questions about, okay? So Shakeology programs, any supplies or marketing stuff, wear and share. Like, so if you buy any clothing that has any Beachbody affiliation type stuff on it, team logo share, like Vicky's sweatshirt, is a deduction. If you buy a Misfit Republic tank top, anything like that, it's a deduction. All your website and business fees, so your monthly service fee that you guys pay for every month. Your Beachbody on demand is also a deduction. Cell phone, home phone, if you have that. Like I have a home phone, but if you ever use that for anything like that. Obviously your internet, because here we are zooming, right? And office supplies, any equipment, software, apps that you pay for, like I pay for Zoom, right, every month, or PicMonkey, anything to design things for any kind of marketing stuff. All of your personal development trainings, going to live events like Super Saturday tickets or even Summit, Success Club trip, airfare for any of those, any of the, hotel, all of that's deductible. Magazine subscriptions. I get this a lot. People ask me, oh, well, if I subscribe to Oxygen magazine or Clean Eating magazine, is that deductible? Yeah, it's totally deductible. It's professional development. So things like that. Excited travel, auto expenses. Okay. So this is one thing I get a lot. So you can, when you do your taxes, you can choose to actually expense all of your regular expenses. So your auto insurance, your gas, your, oil changes, any kind of repair you have, or you can use to do the mileage method. Mileage method usually ends up being a larger deduction for most people, unless you have a brand spanking new car and you depreciate it. I know I just said a word that a lot of you are probably you just spoke some weird language, but basically, unless your car is brand new and it's super expensive, you're always probably going to do the mileage deduction, which is why I gave you the mileage app earlier. You want to track your mileage. Okay. Any advertising or anything like that you do. So any of your Facebook like page boosts, business cards, photocopying a flyer to hand out, anything like that really that's related to your Beachbody business. Gifts for coaches. What?
I said weights?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Weight equipment, gym equipment. Yeah, for sure. And the reason why that is because of our social media presence. Okay. I mean, you could easily show an auditor snapshots of daily posts of, I mean, that's what's great about social media and having all that, is that it's totally, it is up for interpretation. So it's up to you to convince them, if you ever are audited, which is pretty rare, but if you ever are, it's up to you to convince them to do that. Okay. So gifts for coaches and customers. Okay. So this is one where there's a lot of misconception about this. Okay. So you can buy someone whatever you want to buy them. Okay. Right. Like someone goes diamond, you want to buy them diamonds, you go ahead and do that. Only $25 of that value is per person per year is actually deductible. So basically like for me, because I am a nerdy accountant, like this is what I do. Okay. So I use QuickBooks, so you can like split lines, right? You can actually add multiple entries. I will do, if I buy something for someone and it's over $25, I actually, I put down in one line $25 and I write who it was for. And then, I actually have an itemized line in my stuff that says deductible gifts, non-deductible gifts, and then I'll put the balance towards non-deductible gifts. So I'm a total nerd like that because I am an accountant, right? So I'm like, want everything precise and stuff like that. But I realize not everyone's going to do that. But in an ideal world, that is what each of you would do, so you guys could track that. Does that make sense? And then like postage and delivery, any of that kind of stuff is all deductible too. Okay. So I realize this is like tons of information. And if you're not used to it at all, you're probably like, I seriously have no idea what she's talking about.
Wait, can I add on to that real quick?
Yeah.
So this is not really tax info, but it's Beachbody gifting info. So you guys know what's okay and what's not okay to do through Beachbody. You are able, like, how some of you guys give incentives, like the Fix 8 cookbook or a Beachbody program or whatever. You are legally allowed to gift up to $50 a month. So, like one of the Success Club program or one of the Success Club prizes was the 3-pack of the P90X thing. Well, I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, I could give this away and this away and this away. No, you can't, because first off, one of those programs is $119. Secondly, you have to split it up every month. So you guys are more than welcome to gift a Fix 8 cookbook anytime you want. Or the 21-day fix. No, not the 21-day fix, because it's $59.85. But so just to make sure, it has to stay under $50 if you guys use incentives, and that's every month. Like I said, this has nothing to do with tax stuff. It's just Beachbody legalities. Oh man, that makes me feel smart saying that. Okay.
No, and you actually said it right too. I'm so proud of you. Yes. It's like at first to me, when I first heard that, I was like really upset about it. I'm like, that's totally bogus, right? But it really levels the playing field, like when I started thinking about it, because I'm thinking, okay, here you have like average brand new coach who doesn't have a lot of income from their business to actually use towards incentives or use towards any kind of giveaways or anything like that. And then you have like Lindsay Matway, who makes, $2 million a year.
You get a car, you get a car, you get a car.
Yeah, basically, it's like, dude, she could be like literally just basically buying her way to the top. And so it's like, that's why I totally understand why they get that, why they do that. Of course I'm like, I want to give away more stuff. Like, why can't I do that? But not Lindsay Matway. I don't want her to give away stuff, It's like, because that's not fair for me. So, yeah. So I'm glad that they actually do that. It's nice that they do. Okay. So that's really what I have for you guys, because I knew that there would be, a lot of questions. So basically, if you take anything away right now, the most important thing is to make sure that when you start reaching a higher income level, you start making estimated tax deposits. And like I said, that amount would be the law is when you are expected to owe $1,000 or more in taxes, right? So that includes your federal tax and that self-employment tax. Okay. And that ends up being right around like $7,800 a year in income. Okay. Which is about $150 a week. So breaking it down for you guys. So like that's kind of when you would know that you want to start actually putting money aside and making those estimated tax deposits. And you do that 4 times a year.
And I'm going to tell you guys why this is so important. And why is it so important to learn right when you start coaching, or right when you uh-oh, it says, can you guys hear me? Am I frozen? Hello? Can you guys hear me? What the heck? Anyways, so my face keeps changing. Anyways, it shows all of you guys are frozen, and I'm just gonna keep going. Oh, there you guys are.
Oh, damn it! I was gonna take a picture of you.
So, anyways, so I was thinking, oh, I won't be able to pay, or I won't have that much to pay or owe or whatever, and I didn't think about estimated tax deposits, even though my right-hand man, Cindy, for like 2 years before that was like, estimated tax deposits, do your taxes, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. I'll start doing it next month and the month after. And well, last year, I finally felt like an adult. For once in my life, because I owed taxes. Not only did I owe taxes, I owed a big chunk of taxes. And Cindy was like, well, did you do estimated tax deposits like I told you? And I was like, nope. Yeah. So start now, and it won't be dreading. And like Cindy says, and this is what I'm actually going to start doing this year. So Cindy, if you know anyone, or if you'll do it for me and I'll pay you, I need a financial advisor. So anything that takes you more than 40 minutes to do, or 40% of your time or something, delegate. So if you know nothing about what Cindy was talking about, delegate that shit out. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh, and I need to make something also very clear. When you're looking for someone to prepare your taxes, if you're not doing it yourself and you're not comfortable doing it yourself, the biggest advice that I could give is do not go to a place like Howard Johnson.
Or
no.
H&R Block.
Yeah, like H&R Block, or what's the other one?
Liberty.
There's another one. H&R Block is the big one, though.
Yeah. They will rip you off so bad.
Well, it doesn't even matter that they rip you off. The fact of the matter is that I have a college degree, right? Not only do I have a college degree, but then I sat for the enrolled agents exam. I'm not a CPA. I'm what's called an enrolled agent, which is actually directly through the IRS. You basically have to study for an entire year after you get your degree, and then it's like much harder than the CPA exam because it's all tax code, literally all tax code. I'm required, just like CPAs are, to have a certain amount of continuing professional hours each year, like all different things like that, okay? And when you go to H&R Block, the owner of that H&R Block may be a CPA or an enrolled agent, but everyone that is doing your taxes, they basically have to go to an 8-week course. And if they get 80% or higher, they're hired, okay? And so those are the people that are doing your taxes. And I don't even know how many taxes I have actually redone and done amended tax returns over the years from people who got them done at H&R Block. Now, that being said, if you have like a super simple return and all you have is like a W-2, those places are fine. I would actually recommend you actually do your own taxes on like TurboTax Online. It's like totally free. But when you own a business and things like that, you need to find someone that you trust, that is reputable, that's, has higher standards than someone that's just had an 8-week course. Does that make sense to you? Because this is your life. I know people who have had people who are not, real tax preparers do tax returns and had a lot of bad things happen. And I don't want to say that to scare you, but I want you to go into this being educated and, being an advocate for yourself. And so I would find either a CPA or someone who's an enrolled agent, or even, and they don't even have to be a CPA or enrolled agent. There's like what's called, I can't even remember what they call them now. They're like non-accredited accountants. And it's basically people who've been like bookkeepers for years and they started doing tax preparing. They actually have to get like tax numbers registered with the IRS in order to prepare a tax return, things like that. They just, which a lot of those people have a lot of education too, from years and years and years and years of tax practice. So someone like that would still even be better than just going to someone who gets like an 8-week certification course. So there we go.
Are you ready to answer some questions?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Do you have to have a business license in order to file taxes?
No, you do not. You need to have, basically you're just an independent contractor. So all you need to have is your social security number. If you're doing it yourself, like it'll ask you if you have a 1099, which you will get, if you've made over $600. And it basically goes on to what's called a Schedule C, is what a self-employed tax return. And basically that's where your all your income and expenses are on. So yes, no, you do not.
Is the H&R Premium Business Online okay to use to file?
Yeah, if you're using it yourself, I will tell you, I've used H&R Block and TurboTax many, many, many times. I believe that TurboTax is much more user-friendly than H&R Block. Like H&R Block, you have to, if you use even like the software in your computer, you have to know what you're doing. TurboTax is very intuitive. They prompt you. I
can do it.
Yeah,
I use it every year.
Really, yeah, TurboTax is like amazing. I mean, they really are. And I'm not paid by them. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. But I mean, there's a reason why I've used their accounting software. There's a reason why I use Quicken for all my personal stuff. There's a reason why I use Lacert, which is like I said, it's like TurboTax on steroids. It's because it's awesome, So I recommend TurboTax over H&R Block for sure.
Can discount coaches deduct Shakeology from their expenses?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. So when you deduct more expenses than you make, right? So if you're not making an income and you deduct them off of your taxes, you're going to show a loss and for your company, right? So it's going to show a loss, which means it helps your other taxable income. So let's say you're a discount coach and you have another job or something like that where you owe taxes for that job because you have that income. So if you have a loss for your business, it's going to decrease some of those tax burdens that you have in other areas of your life. But the only problem with that is that if you start showing a loss repeatedly over multiple years, the IRS will come in and deem it not a business, and they'll deem it as a hobby, and you won't be able to deduct anything for that.
So
you want to show a
progression for a year and then start working your butt off the next. End of story.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, like let's say you started, and it's normal. Like it's normal for a business when you start to show a loss in the beginning. It's very rare that new businesses show an income because generally, whether it's Beachbody or a multi-million-dollar business, generally you have a lot of startup costs and things like that to get you started, and so that's normal. The IRS knows that, but they want to see an upward trend. Is what they want to see.
Okay, what about office decor or items you use in your daily posts that aren't fitness related?
I don't know about office decor.
How about whiteboards?
Yeah, whiteboards, things like that that you use for like planning, filing cabinets, like that kind of stuff. The other stuff's kind of up for interpretation, right? Like your motivational posters and things like that. Stuff like that is kind of, you could.
Count.
Uh-oh. What? No, your gnome does not count, Lori.
What?
Now with the app
all mine would be Star Wars. My whole office has like Star Wars figurines in it.
Cindy, the app that you were talking about that you take receipts of, do you still want to keep the receipts that you take photos of?
Okay, so you used to have to do this. And you used to have, even if you had a digital copy, like people would scan their, data and stuff like that. And the IRS used to require you to keep everything. But they were kind of getting away with that, like because everything's gone so digital. So if you do have digital copies of things like that, you do not have to have the original receipt. And which is really awesome too, because a lot of people like highlight receipts, not knowing that highlighters actually erase receipt paper. And so that's a big fact. So if you highlight stuff, make sure you don't do that, because in the next year it's going to be blank and you won't even know what you're looking at. So, yeah, so you can use the digital and you're good to go.
Okay. Sweet.
That's actually a brand new, like a new thing. So.
Okay. And then, oh, you already answered this, but do you get a W-2 if you make a certain amount, or is it any amount and you will get a W-2?
Okay. You will not get a W-2. You'll get what's called a 1099, and then it's only if you make over $600 in 1 year.
What is the benefits of getting a business license?
Well, you're a business. You're legitimized. You can do a lot more with business licenses. You can buy things at wholesale. You get what's called a UBI number, which means you can buy things at wholesale. I mean, the way I see it is like, I always see people kind of try to, I work with a lot of people in network marketing, and I work with a lot of small businesses that are kind of like mom and pop businesses that do at-home businesses. And then I work with a lot of companies that are brick and mortar businesses. Do you know what that means? Like an actual store, a physical store. Okay. And it's really crazy because, like, for some reason, I don't know why. And I think it's because of the amount of money that we have to invest in our businesses. It's like you sign up with a $39, $39.95 fee, and it's a business. But for some reason, we don't treat it like a business. Every other client I would ever have, I would say, yeah, you need a business license. And I say the same thing with Beachbody coaches. Yeah, you need a business license. You're a business. Bottom line. Do you have to have one? No. But are you a business? I mean, you have to think of how you're looking at your own business, right? I mean, you only put $39.95 in it, but then you have people who make, millions and millions of dollars a year as Beachbody coaches. Do you think they have business licenses? Yeah. So.
Okay. So I have a question. What about like diamond retreats?
Yeah, but the problem with that is, okay, so that's like technically team building. It's not gift. So you'd have to separate out the little things you give to people versus the experience. Like, so like the cost of like the housing, the cost of if you fly someone out there, all of those are 100% deductible. Okay. But things like, like how you'll see people be like, oh, look at this little care package I got. That would be like the $25 limit.
Right. Kathy asked if you don't have all of your receipts, can you get a printout from your Beachbody office?
You can. Mm-hmm.
And something else, Kathy, that I did last year, because even with Cindy telling me to keep all my receipts, I did not. And so what I did, and I don't even know if this is legit, so oh my gosh, please stop me. But I printed out my bank statement, and I highlighted everything that was, Shakeology or team website fees or whatever. I highlighted everything that I should have had a receipt for.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't get receipts for our website and things like that. So there's certain things that you're not going to have your receipts for, and that's okay. As long as, like I said, like the IRS is like so up for interpretation, and that's why it takes experience and things like that in order to understand all that stuff. It's not cut and dry, and all of it is, if you're ever audited or things like that, it's literally a discussion where you sit down and, I've been through tons of audits, and it's basically, they ask you a question, you justify it, you show them reasonable means, or something like that. Then they're like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, they're not looking to, take away every expense. They're looking for fraud, so.
Yeah. And then Cindy's going to post a document with a lot of this information on it. Yeah, of course, Alexis. And Cindy did this call for the Misfit Republic team call a while ago, but I thought it would be good to speak on this tonight. And then do you have documentation that you could post in the file section too?
Me? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can make some. I don't have anything right now, but I can make stuff, or even have like different links and stuff like that to like the IRS website for different things like the estimated tax deposits and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you. So the monthly website fee is deductible, but use bank statements as receipts?
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does anyone have any last minute questions before I stop the recording?
I do.
You're welcome.
Okay, great.
Oh,
Just
the Canadian. I'm not going to have any answers for you. Are you kidding me?
Oh, don't worry. You can just use the American version and I'll convert.
Okay.
But like you said, the bank accounts, like that would count as a receipt, so to speak. But would a credit card work too? Your credit card statements, we'll say?
Yeah,
similar?
so like for different kind of fees and stuff like that, yeah, you can you print out a credit card statement or keep a credit card statement. Like the things that you're going to want to make sure you have a receipt for or print out, which I realize that not everyone does this. They don't keep all of their little inserts, because you do get a receipt in every single Shakeology box. In every single shipment that you get from Beachbody, they do give you a detailed item to receipt. They're blue. Like, I'm sure you've all seen them. I suggest you start keeping them. Like, but if you don't, yeah, you can use your credit card thing, and just know that you're making an effort in the future to try to keep that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. How long do you keep your receipt for?
Yeah, 7 years. Oh, well, it's technically 10 years for businesses, but you didn't want to hear that.
It's a lot of filing. I need to take a house just for all.
That's why you have banker's boxes. I have banker's boxes, and I file everything and take it out every year and I just put it in one banker's box and keep it separate.
Sweet. Okay,
Oh,
so I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.